Okay, here it is. How much money can you expect to make raising sheep for meat on a small scale? That's what I'm going to be diving into today. Stick around and see what that final number is. Okay, before I get started on this, let's start with a huge fat disclaimer. I am not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. I don't know you and I don't know your setup. I'm not giving any legal or accounting or business advice, okay? What I am doing is I'm basing some numbers in reality and basically showing a hypothetical situation of what it could look like if you were to adopt a small scale sheep operation for meat and how much profit you can expect to make as a ballpark range. Obviously, everything is always subject to change based on your area, things like irrigation, what your season looks like, what every year looks like. There's so much that goes into account for that. So listen to that disclaimer because I mean it. Don't come at me with what your area is or the specifics that are different from this. Unless I'm wildly off, but there's going to be a pretty healthy margin of error on this. And with that said, let's get started. I want to talk with you to start. Here's the scenario, okay? Remember how I said this is a small scale operation. I'm basing it kind of what I've experienced. Last year I started with 2 ewes. This year I've got 4 ewes, so my experience has been very small scale. I feel like 10 ewes is still quite small scale. So in my scenario, I've got 10 ewes that have a 180% lambing rate. So let's expect 18 lambs out of this, okay? I do not keep a ram year round. I have a rental ram in this scenario. We're doing hair sheep, Dorper, obviously, because I love Dorper, but Katahdins, Black Belly, Barbados, a lot of these other sheep can be substituted for that. I just like to picture Dorpers because they're good looking sheep and they put on weight really well. We are a single track lambing situation. So although it is hair sheep and you can get 3 yields every 2 years, I'm planning on single track. That's what I do personally. That's what a lot of hair sheep producers do anyway. These are registered full blood animals, and I'm going to talk about why you want to go that route if you're in the small animal or small flock production. Grass-fed, pastured animals, so no feedlot, okay? Very little grains, if any. I'm going to explain what I do use grains for, and I think you'll be surprised at how little it is. And then again, fat disclaimer, all of these, like, the whole point of this is for you to see what's possible, okay? And then you can play with these numbers and figure out your own expenses and revenue and profit and all that stuff. So listen to that disclaimer. I really am trying to be protect myself here, but also protect you. So you're not going into something with thinking that this is, concrete set in stone. So by the end of this, I'm going to have answered what are your expenses, what is your revenue, and what is the total profit on an annual scale given these scenarios. So first, I just want to talk a little bit about your timeline. I feel like a lot of the people watching this might already have a vague idea of what the timeline is, but if you see what my timeline looks like, I think that'll help base a lot of these numbers in reality, okay? So although everyone's year starts in January, I feel like the sheep keeper's year starts in fall. So I like to lamb a little bit later than most people do. You might like to put a ram in with your ewes in the early fall, late summer. I do it very late fall. Some might even consider it winter. So I actually put a ram with my ewes in November. Okay. The reason why I like to do that is I have a full-time job outside of what I do here on the homestead. You'll see why I have a full-time job when you see the profit numbers. But I have a full-time job, and so it's helpful for me to know that they're going to lamb later in the season when there's not snow on the ground. I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. I just like a safer lambing operation. That's worth it to me. So I put a ram in with the ewes in November. Okay, so that means we can expect probably sometime in April, if the ram, if everyone was cycling well and the ram was on it. So we can expect lambing in April. So what happens in between this time? Well, if you live, in a place where there's a lot of snow, you're going to be feeding a lot. Okay, again, I'm on a small scale operation, so basically from here to here, you're going to be supplementing their feed. Now, I even go a step further, and I supplement um, a month before, and just give my ewes some really rich alfalfa to make sure that they've got enough protein. Hopefully, maybe they will ovulate more and maybe bump this number up. You don't have to do that. That's what I do. But for the month after your ram leaves, which you probably will have your ram for a whole month, maybe longer. I like to do it as long as they'll let me keep the ram, really, even though they eat a lot. So you're going to want to supplement with some really rich feed then. And now, basically, from January until a month out, you can give them some grass hay. They don't need quite the heavy load alfalfa. However, if you're a small producer, maybe you don't want to go get all that alfalfa and then all that grass separate. So I don't. I just feed them alfalfa the whole way through. I realize I'm leaving money on the table when I do that, though. So just me being a smaller outfit, just doesn't make sense for me to spend all that time and money. And then April, you've got lambing season. Yay, everyone loves lambing season. At least everyone loves when it's over, right? And so lambing season takes place April to May, depending on when the cycle hit and when the ram did his thing. And so the benefit of going small scale, which I consider 10 ewes, 18 lambs, still small scale. I can't accommodate that big on my property, but I still consider it small scale, is from so April to October. It's business as usual, right? You got grass on the pasture. All you're doing, you're giving them water, you're giving them some mineral supplementation, and beyond that, you're letting ruminants do what they do best, which is turn that grass into probiotics for the ground and eat. So some people wean in this scenario. I don't like to wean. It is so loud, and because I have Dorpers, it's like 8 times louder than any other sheep, I feel like. So I don't wean. I just castrate rams and let them run together. So that's up to you. It doesn't affect this situation so much. That's up to you. Okay, that was probably really elementary. That's not what this video is totally about. I just wanted to set this in reality. So let's start talking about what the expenses are, okay? I'm going to use nice round numbers for this. So expenses, we're going to figure out what that total number is. Let's start with minerals, okay? So salt, you're going to want, a good rich salt that's beneficial for many reasons. I'm not covering them in this video, but Redmond Selenium 90 is a fabulous salt. You're going to want to make sure that you have enough for free choice for the whole year. 1 or 2 bags could probably get you through the entire year on this small scale. So let's just say, I'm going conservative on a lot of this stuff, just to kind of show a bigger number at the end, but I'm also going conservative on sales too. So I don't know, conservative is better than aggressive. So conservatively, let's say you got one 50-pound bag, that'll set you back $30. And then kelp, I really like giving, not necessarily free choice, because kelp is quite pricey and they don't go after it a lot, and then it rains and it gets gross. So I try to give them, every week or so a little bit of kelp, and that's just basically like a multivitamin for them, just tons of micronutrients in that Icelandic dried kelp. Let's see, what did I have marked for that? Looking at my notes here, the kelp was about $35 for enough for the year. And then baking soda, I like to give my sheep nearly free choice baking soda, just to make sure if there is any chance of bloat that the baking soda keeps it down. I feel like the sheep are pretty intuitive that they'll go for the baking soda when that happens. Or sometimes I'll just drop like a cup in their water occasionally, but that's your choice. You can deal with bloat the way that you want to deal with bloat. Okay, so we're going to start with a really small number at first. $80 for your minerals for the year. Now hygiene, that's kind of a catch-all term. So these are hair sheep. They don't need to be shorn, but if you want to shear your sheep, maybe that covers that cost. If you need to do like a drench or a foot rot treatment, or if you need to have somebody come over and trim the, oh my gosh, their feet, their hooves, gee whiz. So if you want any of that done, I kind of just budget that all together into the hygiene bucket. So that covers also basically any medical needs that you have. So this is a small flock, and you're great at managing their flock. So I'm going to say 200 for hygiene for the year. Now feed, like I said in this scenario, basically you're just supplementing them throughout the winter. Okay, they have a great pasture already. If you need to reseed your pasture every year like I do, you got to budget a couple $100 in to reseed the pasture. So that's not part of this. I'm assuming that you have a great pasture, because I feel like everyone's pasture is better than mine, because I moved here a year ago and the people before me would like use it basically as a parking lot. So I have a pretty garbage pasture. It's coming back to life though. It's doing good. Superpower of ruminants, right? Okay, so let me talk to you about what I do for sheep. So assuming we get 70 to 80 pound bales, I assume that I need 12 to 14 bales per ewe to get them through the winter. So winter for me means October to April. Now I don't have snow on the ground in October, but I'm supplementing them in October so I can get that high protein. Okay, so I'm very conservative on the fact that I need more hay than less hay. You don't want to be caught without hay, getting paying up the wazoo to get some expensive hay. So better safe than sorry, right? So I budget between 12 to 14 bales per ewe. If you run a smaller flock, I like to go bigger. So I think this year I did close to like 15 bales per ewe. That's because that also has to account for, I've got a ram with me for about 2 months here, okay? Rams freaking chow. Like if you put out food, they're going to eat it. Ewes are a little bit more picky, but the rams just go for it. So the ram doesn't really like have a perfect place in my budget. That's just why I scale up how much I need for the ewes. Also, I like to put my ewes on the pasture later, like after lambing, because again, I lamb later in the year. I just like to put them out on like a really great pasture. Also, it's just pretty. Like when you've got tall grass, you got lambs running through it. Lots of fun. Okay, so doing that math, we've got 10 ewes. Let's say 125 bales. So it's 12 bales per ewe plus an extra 5. Let's say it's for that ram. So I buy hay at, I found this guy, he's like, I don't even want him to like see this video because I don't think he realizes how cheap he's selling me hay. But I'm getting hay for under $6 a pound, or sorry, under $6 a bale with him, and they're very good 80 plus pound bales. So that is kind of an outlier. Again, this is one of those big disclaimers. It could be different where you are. So I'm going to budget $6.50 per bale of hay here. So $6.50 times 125, that's going to put you at 780. And I'm going to put that there to remember. And then finishing feed. So there's some debate here. A lot of people grain feed more than I do. I don't market my meat as 100% grass fed. Because when they're young lambs, I try mostly just to like earn their trust to hand feed some of my lambs some grain when they're young, and then also the last 3 days or so I give them a little bit of rolled oats. So these finishing feed is really just a bag of rolled oats. So I try to buy good quality there. So that is $25. So that 25 sucks. But that whole price here, we're looking at $805 there. So you can see so far the feed is really, the feed is the big part of the expenses here. Okay, so a ram, that can vary. Okay, so I'll be honest, like I have kind of like the bee's knees setup here. I don't have to pay for my ram each year. But I'm just gonna budget $250. I've seen that as low as $20 and a bale of hay, and it could cost thousands of dollars in other locations. I don't know because that's not my life. So I'm just gonna say $250. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, show me in the comments. This is something that's probably the weakest number on this chart. Okay, registration. Remember how I talked about this is a registered full blood operation? The reason being is because we're gonna recuperate a lot of that expense from registration on show ewes, and having a great pedigree is only going to help you in the ring. Okay, so registration for me, for Dorper Sheep Society of America, whatever that is, that's $60 a year, and then depending on how many sheep I register, that obviously increases the price. If I have to trade or transfer or buy new sheep, that that increases the price, right? So I'm going to, again, budget high for this. I've never paid this much, but I have a much smaller flock. I'm just going to say $250 a year, okay? Now, miscellaneous. This is covering anything from, like, if you need to, build a new lambing jug, if you need a barn wall put up, if you need to buy more feeders, if you need to travel halfway across the country to sell these sheep, all that stuff costs money. And I don't know your situation. I don't know what your irrigation is. I don't know if you're on a well. I don't know if you've got pressurized. There's so many unknowns here, okay? So I want to be fair to you guys, and I'm going to say 500 plus. Minimum $500 to, like travel alone. Like if you got to drive like 5 states over for a show and get a hotel room, like bam, you're over $500 there. So I don't know your situation, but I feel like $500 is pretty conservative. Okay, so I just double checked my math here. The expenses are going to be, let's erase this question mark. We double check, yep. 2,085, okay? So again, especially with that miscellaneous price, and if you've got a different situation for hay, if your registration is different, there's a lot of different scenarios here, but you can budget about $2,000 for the expenses for the year. Okay, let's get to the fun stuff, right? Let's talk about making money, okay? So remember how this scenario, we've got 18 lambs. In order to make it easy, I'm just going to say 9 rams and 9 ewes, okay? You can debate me if you want on different, percentages and what's normal. Just count on 50-50, okay? So that leaves us 9 rams. Now, when I sell for meat, I have kind of a unique way where I take a deposit, and then when it goes to processing, I take a payment, and then my customer pays the butcher. Okay. Again, I'm not giving you legal advice of how to sell meat. I'm just saying that that's how I do it, and so my final price that I take home is $350. And depending on how many pounds it is, they pay the butcher more or less. So my customers end up paying less than $9 a pound. That's really good for pastured, grass-fed lamb. You could probably get more at some other areas. That's just how I'm doing it this next year. Subject to change. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Okay, so 9 rams at $350 a ram. I need to check my notes. So the rams alone, you're looking at, I should have given myself a bigger box. $3,150, okay? Pretty good profit. Congratulations, you. Let's talk about the ewes. So there's a lot of different options for ewes. For your ewes. Your ewes are your money makers, okay? That's where the money is, baby. Unless you can get a ram that you can get to stud quality and sell for a pretty penny, I'm not counting on that, okay? And you shouldn't either if you've got a small scale operation. Especially if you don't own a ram. Because unless you're paying the top dollar for the best ram, you're not going to produce the best ram. So the ewes, there's kind of 3 categories. There's show ewes, which when I say show, I mean going to, for example, these are registered animals. So, taking them somewhere and basically, showing them and collecting a higher price for their sale. Commercial sales, so that is you don't register them and you sell them for much cheaper. So you're less attractive ewes. And then cull ewes, okay? Cull ewes are almost identical to how much I'm paying to have a ram processed. So I just want to put an asterisk here. I'm just going to make it easy on us and just say equal 3 parts. I don't think that's truly realistic. Like for my flock, I would try to go 50-50 show. Like basically all my commercials would bump up to show, and then if I happen to have some culls, they go to cull. Basically a cull for me is anything I can't sell at a show. Just because I'm really proud of my flock. Like to put it in perspective, I see ewes with identical genetics, so meaning basically a different dame, but with the same sire as one of my dames, and the same sire on the other side. I see ewes like that go for $900 to $1,000 at a show. Is that what you should expect? I don't know. But also keep in mind, in a show, a lot of shows are going to take like 10% maybe of the sale. So if you've got 3 ewes for show, let's say you're walking out of that show with $750 in your pocket from each of those sales. Congratulations, like that's a great price. And you can see why your ewes are so beneficial to you in this operation. You can see why you paid that $250, which again was a high number, to be able to qualify to sell them at a show and to be registered. Now, commercial ewes, like some people pay like $200 for that. I don't get that market. Like that's not. I guess that's a commercial flock. People should be really, really excited to take a full-blooded Dorper, even if it doesn't have papers. So I'm going to go higher than probably what most people think. I think this is honest, but some people would say lower. I think $500 per ewe to go into a commercial flock. Okay? Put that one in front of there because we got 3 of these. So $1,500 from your 3 commercial sale ewes. And again, maybe those are show sales and you made a couple $100 more. Let's talk about culls. Culls are the exact same situation as the rams up there. For my situation, it doesn't matter the carcass yield. I bank at least $350 off of each of them. So 350 times 3 is going to be 1,050. So let's see if I can do this math in my... No, I'm not going to do it in my head. Give me a sec. Thanks for waiting. Okay, so the ewes alone are going to be 4,800. So let's just put that here so we can all see that. That's like the first number to get a dollar sign for some reason. So here it is. Total revenue. We're looking at, I should have given myself a better box. We're looking at $7,950. Basically $8,000. Pretty good. Like that's pretty great for only 10 ewes, okay? So how do you figure out what the profit is? It's basically just minusing these 2 out. Okay, so that number is going to bring us to a grand total of 5,800. Is that a 6 or an 8? It's a 6. $65. Yay! 0 cents. So, the lesson to be had here is that a gold mine? I don't know, it depends. Like if you can scale this up, if you can turn some of these, commercials or these shows back into the flock, if you have the space for that, you can see how you can scale that profit quite a bit higher next year. If you double that, you double this. It's pretty easy math. So again, this video is for the small scale sheep producer. If you're producing much larger sheep operations, your expenses will look quite a bit different and your revenue might look quite a bit different. But for the small scale sheep producer, making over $5,000 a year out of it, that's not bad, right? And to me, we raise chickens and rabbits and we garden a lot. I would say out of all those, the sheep, except for lambing season, are kind of our lowest maintenance animals. So really a lot of good to be had with the sheep here. So, and if you still think that that's still not that great of a return, think about it this way. This is a hobby, okay? If you've got 10 ewes, that's a hobby, essentially. And if you compare your hobby to your buddy who golfs, how much money is your friend losing with golf every year, okay? You're probably making the same amount that he or she is losing with golf. So, if you're making any money for a hobby, I'd say it's a pretty great hobby. Hey, thank you for watching this video. I just want to emphasize again, this is not advice for you for how to price, for how to sell, for any of that stuff. This is just based in somewhat of a real scenario where you can learn from it, right? You can pivot these numbers and get a better sense of reality. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do what the whiteboard says. Like and subscribe the content so I can see you again on another whiteboard video, and we'll be doing plenty of videos out in the field with the sheep themselves. So thanks for watching this video. I'm PJ with the High Mountain Homestead, and I'll see you on the next one.